Patriots, as you know, we are under attack. Our way of life is under attack. Our way of thinking is under attack. Everything that we hold dear is under attack. And I want you to prepare yourself for a day of discussion like no one else will do. First, let me make sure that I am coming across loud and clear. Give me, if you could, a 5x5 to indicate that you are hearing me without any interruption, any problems, any, criticisms. Very good. Raul's the first one. Just want to make sure. Got to make sure all of our sensibilities, all of our sensate portals, our sentience activation portals are working. Thank you so much. Get ready today, my friend, for a topic the likes of which I promise you no one is going to be touching at levels and layers that you need. I watched so earnestly today. I really tried to listen to what was this thing called Fox News, and it was children talking about and around the subject without going into detail. Why is that? There's a suspicious part of me that I don't like, but I'm wondering if I'm right about this. Is everyone in on the con? We'll talk about that, dear friends. So sit back, make sure you are subscribed to Lionel Nation. But before we begin, this incredibly important word from our sponsor. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made, and he's in his 80s, and he still looks tremendous. He's working out, staying active. What's even more shocking is that he says he's stronger, he can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. And he did this by making just one change. And he says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing also, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. She says her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. And make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Lionel or by clicking on the link below in this video in the description section. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Lionel and click the link in the description section to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is 84 years old and yet today has more energy than you can imagine. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. So watch this method by clicking the link in the description box below, chuckdefense.com/Lionel. There's a level of understanding that every problem will involve. Everything. Depending upon what it is, you can then determine how deep you want to go. Based upon the particular audience that you're listening to, based upon the particular group that you're watching, based upon the people that you're listening, it depends on this. If I were to describe to you anything, whether it's Israel or Ukraine or crime or Trump or elections, I'm finding constantly the first thing I do is I try to gauge what level of understanding people have. It's like when you're talking to kids and you want to tell them things, you look at their age and how sophisticated are they and what do they understand and what do they think and what do they know. You don't want to ever tell a kid something that is beyond their ken, their ambit. Okay? That's what we're talking about right now. When I talk about things, when I put it this way, when I look at what's happening, I see it like you would look at a bunch, a knot, a kind of a hornet's nest of twine, all congealed in a big ball of mess, like fishing line. And I look at it and I say, this is beautiful. This is exactly what I thought. Complicated. Yeah. People don't want that. They don't want that. Watch. I had to do this. I thought, let me see what Fox News has. Watch the level of almost kindergarten, romper room giddiness. Almost. Have you ever heard this? I saw two mothers yesterday walking with their kids, and I wanted to scream. Have you noticed how mothers take on this voice? And that's why, Megan, we have to share what we're doing. It's like, I'm thinking, do kids really need to be talking like that? But mothers start talking like that. I don't know what happens to them. A couple of years ago, they were just chicks, and now they're talking. One time I was at the CVS, Mrs. L and I, and this mother said, now, Michaela, we can't take whatever we want just because we want. And she's holding up the line. I'm thinking, what is this? Okay, it's a kid, but that's Fox News. And how come this fellow knew where to go? And how did he know? Let's talk right now to Congressman so-and-so who's sitting in his car, who's not going to tell you anything. He's not going to lose his security clearance. He's not going to really push it. He's going to tell you the usual stuff. Who is this person? Without mentioning who he is. Now, where would you go for this? Well, I'm looking at my stuff. I'm looking at X, which is fantastic. And by the way, I cannot say enough about Grok. Grok is their Chat GPT or AI. It's phenomenal. OpenAI, it's the worst. Elon Musk's is terrific. You can say, give me a picture of Kamala wearing a MAGA hat, petting a kitten, and there it is. And OpenAI will say, well, I can't do that. They won't even sometimes I want to look at a story and kind of synthesize it. It will reject story. Sorry, don't want to go there. This is OpenAI. This is anyway. So I'm looking through this thing. And it's the most incredible thing you've ever seen before. Cut Up Chatter says, Americans are held to such a high standard regarding our care of pets. Many sit in jail today. How can the theft, abuse, and consumption of a neighbor's pet not be concerning to insanity levels? Well, the only reason it's not, and thank you for that, the reason is that they don't want to do anything to embarrass themselves because they think, based upon the epistemology, the ontology of this particular way of thinking, there are people right now who are saying, oh. Now let's look at a couple of things here. First, I ask you. Did I say axe? My God, it's happened to me. I ask you. So please follow me at Lionel Media. Number one. And I'm going to give you a couple of things here. First and foremost, this is incredible. Number one. Top FBI officials ordered an agent to scrub his Facebook page to delete anti-Trump vitriol before they would promote him to head the Bureau's Miami field office, which covers former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Okay. In a disclosure to the White House Judiciary Committee, the whistleblower said that Jeffrey Veltri, this is according to the Washington Times, was promoted earlier in 2023, I think, to become the special agent in charge of the Miami office. And if you go to you can see right there, he was basically charged with putting up and promoting anti-Trump vitriol on Facebook, and this is the FBI special agent in charge. Do you think that's critical? Do you think that maybe that's critical? Let me ask you a question. Do you think that's critical? I do. How do you have this? How is there not some rule that says unless you leave this office, you are not going to enjoy any repeat, any capacity, anything? You are not going to be in any kind of position of authority so long as you leave this type of nonsense up on social media. Cut Up says, how can this country stand for Santeria's practice of vile pursuit of bloody sacrifice? You know what? Let me explain something. And this is an important thing to bring up. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up. And let's take a time out to answer your question, which is very, very good. This came up years ago when people would ask the question, especially in Florida, Miami, Tampa, Cuban American communities, Caribbean, where Santeria was a big deal. How can you allow, quote, animal sacrifice? Leslie says, is it not win or lose? Is he a threat to some people by being alive? Yes. One would certainly think, if you mean President Trump, of course. Years ago, they would say, why can you sacrifice? Why is animal sacrifice allowed? They talked about the Paschal lamb. They talk about kosherizing beef, halal, where they would take beef and different things and slit their throats and hang them by kosher or whatever it was. To the untrained eye, to the untrained person, to the untrained, this seemed to be the most barbaric of the Greek Paschal lamb. Butchering in general. Go to a meat processing. Look what they do with birds, and they put them upside down, and they'll dip sometimes the birds in the water. They'll electrocute them, or they'll just slit their throats, and they process, and you see the Germans have, I saw a pork production factory. I don't think a human touched anything. From oink to snout to trotters to to skin, tails, ears, guts, intestines for chicharron, for the skin rather, for chitlins or chitterlings. Every aspect, every bit of offal, connective tissue, sinew, everything was. Now, tell me, why is that okay? Because we consume it? Please tell me the distinction. Please tell me. You can take a pig, you can field dress it, which is a nice way of saying slaughtering it in the field. That's okay. If a Haitian does that, it's a different story. One time, while we're on this subject, and then we'll get back to Trump, but I'm glad this is an interesting subject. One time years ago, there was a fellow who was a radio jock who decided to slaughter, field dress, whatever, a hog in the parking lot of a radio station. His name was Bubba the Love Sponge. This was years ago. And they called the cops, and they said this is because they just didn't like the guy, and he was a problem. They called the cops. They did this. You can't do this. It was barbaric. It was horrible. How can you do this? What are you doing? What are you talking about? Okay, fine. To make a long story very, 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 very short, it went to trial, and I think if I recall correctly, he was acquitted, but they had experts who came forward and says, no, this is the way you do it. This is it. This is the way you do it. Okay. When forced to look at this. When forced to ask questions as to how and what is acceptable or permissible or whatever you want to call it, people are shocked as to our behaviors and how people can react anything to anything other than viscerally react to it. That's all we're doing. Kittens, no. Chickens, yes. Pork, yes. Goldfish, no. Yeah, well, fish, yes. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. The important thing to understand, to grasp more than anything else, is that right now the Democrats rather, are freaking out over Springfield because they just never saw it coming. And they just don't know what to do. Okay. Let's go back to this. Who is this fellow? Who is this fellow? What did he do? What did he do? There is this absolutely incredible group of people putting together these things. First I say, this is the most. The Washington Post says suspected gunman, and they're very careful not to really explain, really to say, well, it was a gunman, well, it was an attempted attack. Wow. They don't like that. They're doing everything in their power. But the Washington Post says suspected gunman at Trump Club, of course, has a quixotic past. Now, this, of course, is from Don Quixote. Quixotic means exceedingly idealistic, unrealistic, and impractical, kind of like harmless. Did you see this? A quixotic past. That's the notion of this. They're making it sound like, well, he's just whatever it is. There is a 291-page book that he apparently published called The Unwinnable War, about his time in Ukraine's International Legion. You understand this? He talks about this fellow, about the dispatch and the assassination of a series of world leaders. And he seems to, in essence, hope as well for the same to happen to President Trump. And he calls for the UN, or calls for the US to instigate nuclear war in Russia. And this guy is off there. And he says repeatedly, he's neither a Democrat nor a Republican, but he clearly articulates the mindset towards this. To call it Russophobic is quaint. This is a guy who absolutely wants there to be, and he mentions a number of people whose names you would not understand. Read what he writes. Read. If you read, for example, I was looking at the X account of Max Blumenthal, completely gray zone news, completely eliminated from any consideration whatsoever. You cannot believe what this fellow has said, who he is, what he said. What is the Azov battalion? What are we talking about? Americans don't know anything about it. Steve Ducey doesn't know anything about it. Because it's like, do you want to get into it? So that's why on my private channel, I go into detail about what it is that I am dealing with and what I want to look at and address. But it is at a level, and I don't mean to sound, this sounds pedantic, but it's at a level that is far more complicated than anything you will ever hear on Fox News or certainly MSDNC or Newsmax or any of those others, because they are deeply entrenched within prototypical, the usual case of Beltway, DC, federal narratives about good guys and bad guys. Have you noticed this? There is absolutely no difference between the left and the right regarding Russia, Ukraine, Israel, nothing. You never hear the name of Victoria Nuland. You never hear about NATO. You've got to go out. You've got to go out of this, and you've got to look elsewhere. If you want to hear, for example, the subjects, one of the best message, the Duran, Judge Napolitano, John Mearsheimer has been the absolute paragon of limpidity when it comes to this. Jeffrey Sachs. There is another world out there, and give me a moment to explain this, which is, I think, very, very critical. Ryan says, would-be Trump assassin, registered Democrat, Ukrainian war fanatic, Biden-Harris bumper sticker, and social media smeared with anti-Trump screeds. How's MSDNC going to slither out of this one? Very easy. Because they know, most people don't know what you just said. Cut Up Chatter says, it's about intent. I had goats, sold them years ago. Somalis in Waterville wanted to buy one for a ceremony where they stab it in the eye and skin it alive. We refused to sell it for any price. Okay, that's good. What about cases where animals are skinned based upon electrocution? And listen, I'm with you. I'm with you on this one. Lisa PM says the plan has been to put Kamala Harris in ever since the shadow government picked her as vice president. Joe served his purpose. Now Donald Trump is the only thing standing in the way. Enough said. I think that is a way of looking at it, but there is still a way around this that we're not getting to yet. There is still. Let me go back and explain this to you. There is a world that we live in. And again, I this morning, I forced myself, 6 o'clock, I said, all right, let me see if I can hand it. Yesterday, I was listening to Hannity when he broke through. Look, it's not his fault, but I think he was more interested in telling us that he knows the president. They go out to a diner. Okay, fine. Listen, I've come to expect it. Thanks for being out there, Uncle Lenny. Thank you, Tony. And I mean it. There are some things, there are people who say to you, look, there's like anything else, whether it's UFC, whether it's cooking, whether it's history, depending upon the level, if you want to make it palatable to most people, you can't go at it like a post-grad, course. That being said. But there is a world out there that you have to go almost, first of all, you have to leave this country. And you have to understand people who recognize the world in terms of international concerns. We don't do this in this country. We don't understand it. Americans have absolutely no idea about what's going on in Ukraine. Nothing. Never did, never will. And the best, if you want to see something, go to Piers Morgan. He is the simplest. This is Piers Morgan explaining human reproduction. Okay, give me an example by analogy. When mommies and daddies want to have a little baby, they pray to God so that God will give them a baby and bless. That's that. It's kind of true, but it leaves a lot out. You know what I mean? It leaves a lot out. There are people who don't really want to get to the crux of the matter. They really don't want to do it. And when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to this, they never understood it. And it takes forever. And when Mearsheimer came along, this is when I really got into him. The Duran and others. And the first thing you have to realize is this idea of good and bad. And there's just, all I'm saying is, I'm not going to bore you because Americans do not care about Ukraine. They just will say, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Is Putin the bad guy? Okay, fine. Is Putin the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Is Zelensky a good guy, bad guy? I don't know. And that's it. The hardest time is trying to keep people's interest. They really don't care about it. But if you want to know who this fellow is, and if I were to tell you the names of the organizations he aligned himself with, most people would say, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I'd say, but you wanted to know who they were. Well, I did, but not that much. I mean, I sort of do, but not really, not that much. I don't really want to know that much. I'm not, you know what I mean? That's okay, but not that much. That make any sense to you? Okay, we're not done yet. Evan Webb says, I have my dad's textbooks from grade school in the 30s, and they are more difficult than the college level today. Yes, they dumbed the education system down, and we are living with the effect now. Yes. And not only that, so much is, and you're right about that, so much is also affecting the way we think. First of all, we have stupid people who are having babies with stupid people, and those children have stupid people. And they don't care. They're more interested in themselves and pictures and, you know, that kind of thing. Social media platforms have done more to accelerate. They are the operating system for stupidity. Really and truly, that's number one. Okay. Now, but the media itself is so good. And I wanted to show this to you. I want to spend a little bit of time. And if you have to do this, if you have to start off, and I think you'll get a kick out of this, I think it's important because for different reasons. There's a show called Lefties Losing It. Rita Panahi from Sky News Australia and I want to just show you, puts together one of the best, dare I say, one of the best adumbrations in reviews. This is Australia, and she gets it more than anything. And if there's one thing you should watch, first of all, your blood pressure will go through the roof. But in terms of the best compilation of somebody who really gets it, and they have a wicked, brutal sense of humor, which you must have in order to maintain your own sanity. This is Rita Panahi. This is just give you an idea of some of it. And it's so excellent. And I cannot commend this enough to you. This is from Lefties.
Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start, Lefties, with a little frivolity before we get into the serious stuff.
A little frivolity. The whole thing is frivolity.
Vile, reckless rhetoric of the increasingly radical left that has incited yet another assassination attempt against President Trump. And I regret to inform you that the real Kamala is back, and I have the videos to prove it. But let's start with this lefty dude losing it and threatening a young man who he says insulted him. Was there a misgendering?
Get the f*** out of my face now!
Ooh, that was very rude of you.
Get the f*** out of my face!
Do you want to go to jail, sir, ma'am? I don't really know what to call you.
You're done, man.
I'm done.
Get the police. You just insulted me.
Ooh, that escalated quickly, and the anger levels did not diminish with this lefty losing it. Here comes the threats.
And I could tell the police to get you.
I'm vegan, so don't say that. Listen.
You told me, He-Man, you really get the out of my way, right?
See, this is before we kind of joke about that. Well, we're joking, but it's really sad. This level, this probably isn't. There is anger that is tripped, that is accelerated, that is initiated for reasons that make no sense. There are levels of anger that can be spontaneously not only caused, but sanctioned. This individual thinks it's okay, it's earned, it's okay for me to lose it, to lose it at this level over mere speech.
Now.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
You do not have a release. I will sue you.
You're gonna sue him? Don't sue him, man, because we're trying to just...
You do not have a release. If you post this, I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Destroy you? Jeez, that seems unnecessary, but...
By the way, this is not as clear, I think, as some people think, and this is the notion of, do you have an expectation of privacy when you are out and about? If you're there, can somebody photograph you? Okay. Well, can somebody record you? Yeah. Can somebody post it? Can somebody then post it and then post your name and where you live. And it's like, then we get into the, wait a minute, now we're going to doxing. And we get so these are levels. These are areas that are still kind of gray. And I cannot give you, just like I can't tell you when it's okay. It's definitely wrong to torture animals, but you can eat them and you can skin them. And so life is a continuum, and where one ends and the other starts, I wish I could tell you.
But there is a happy ending to this interaction. Watches the lefty losing. It considers taking off his shirt for a punch-on before reconsidering, and
A
then
punch-on.
the surprise ending.
I will destroy you.
Keep going on. I got my crew with me now. I got my crew. Yeah! Yeah! What's up? Woo!
Who won? Who's next?
Oh, kids these days. And talking about kids, look at how this little tyke goes from happy to horrified when he spots a furry. Can't blame him.
Okay, I'll let you watch this. I just wanted to give a little shout out. It's a wonderful compilation. Everything they were doing, it'll make your blood boil. Thank you, Buddha. It'll make you sick to your stomach. It'll make you question seriously whether you live in a world of rational people. Who knows? But let's go back to where we started from, square number one. Number one, we can suspect anything. We've got to be able to prove it as well. I promise you, put it this way, and I would think it would be expected. If the shoe were on the other foot, if President Trump were the incumbent and Kamala were the challenger, after having barely escaped an original assassination attempt, I promise you, you would not believe the level of attention that would be provided her. You wouldn't believe it. You would not believe what they would do by virtue of what she went through. But you would not see a guy who happens to show up at this very large golf course, who happened to know where the president would be, and at what point, and at what juncture, and at what hole, so he can set himself up with his ceramic plated bag, his tripod, his GoPro, his AK-47 like. You don't just wing it. You don't say, hey, isn't this the... And it's not Mar-a-Lago, it's near, so you have to know where to look, and you have to know when. And Trump was out the night before. How this guy gets in at 2:00 in the morning and then goes plays golf the next day, I couldn't do it. If I'm on a plane, planes just destroy me. I don't know if it's the circulated air or whatever it is. That's why I hate flying. I hate travel. I hate it. I respond. It kills me. But Trump gets off, goes plays golf. So how did this fellow know this? How did he know this? I promise you, nobody from the FBI, Secret Service, anybody is going to go through this and reveal and report to the Congress or the country, here's any possible inside job. Here is somebody who let him know. Here is what happened. No. It was stopped. It was foiled. Shots fired. I don't know where they make it sound like they were just random. The way I heard it, at first, it sounded like at the time that the president was playing golf, there were people shooting at each other who happened to be nearby. That's the way they made it sound. Now, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know how to put this into words. I don't know how to say it. But this is a joke. You know it, and I know it. And there are more people that you could ever imagine who want him dead. not because they want to stop a political movement or ideology, not because they're Democrats, but because they want him dead. They're vicious, horrible, terrible people who, by virtue of this drumbeat, like that lunatic with the dress, can feel that they're justified. And they've been hearing nothing but this hatred over and over and over, that it's okay to hate President Trump. It's okay to hate him. You can say anything you want. Let me show you a couple of things here. And I'm also going to tell you something, because if you've noticed me long enough, you're going to notice that, when I say something, I don't believe in black and white anything. The world is gray. I always say, make America gray again, because nothing is Manichaean. There's not this very easy kind of a yes and no, good and bad. It's a completely different story. When you hear Piers Morgan talk about Ukraine, if you want to hear something really, if you want to hear Israel in the simplest, I mean, not Fisher Price, but kind of like highlights. Remember when you were a kid in the doctor's office, they had highlights? Remember that magazine, Goofus and Gallant? And, this is really very simple. Listen to Sam Harris on Israel. It's just, wow. And somebody who is supposedly so smart and a genius has the hardest time understanding that sometimes things are different. In 1962, we threatened to go to, let me see if we can watch this. Hang on. We threatened to go to war with Russia because of missiles that we believed and had proof of being in Cuba. We were going to go to war because we said we are not going to have a nuclear country, a nuclear powered enemy on our, in essence, border. This was 90 miles away. And we said, oh no, we're not going to do this. And there is exactly what is happening as was portrayed in Ukraine. And nobody will tell you about when Putin and when Zelensky sat down and were going to work this out. And Boris Johnson came in and said, oh, no. Oh, no. Now, what I'm telling you right there is already people are yawning. The names don't mean anything. Boris Johnson, Zelensky, the guy with that's it. That's the problem. Where's lefties losing an equivalent of truth in Ukraine? Oh, don't listen before you jump in. Lefties, they're okay, but they are absolutely prototypically the usual. They are prototypical paleocon. Russia bad, Hamas, Palestinian bad, that kind of thing. Hamas, just say Hamas and all thinking just turns off. It's just, so don't even, and by the way, I've learned this, don't even bother. I don't even bother. I don't know about you, but I do it on my private channel. I do it on there. I put a link if you're interested. I talk about it there. Never here. It's a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. I'm not saying you, but in this particular forum and in the people that we deal with, nobody really wants to get into this. That's kind of like a niche topic. God bless, Judge Napolitano talking to Alistair Crook and others and Scott Ritter. Good luck with that. Here, no. No. And I'm not saying that, well, you folks couldn't handle it. I'm not saying that. It's just not something people are interested in. Evan Webb says, it seems unlikely that someone in the inside was not helping him. But how do we prove? Why would you say it seems unlikely that somebody was not helping him? Do we know everything? No. Got to hear the facts. Are we going to hear Jim Jordan? No. But here's what I'd like us to do to our people in Washington. We're going to presume something. You tell us where we're wrong. I'm going to presume that there was intel, that nobody was looking at this. Nobody. Let me explain to you something. And this is something which is very difficult to explain. But if you ask yourself, where does all this hatred come from? Where does this not just hate Trump, but get him? Let me say that again. We've seen hate. They hated Nixon. They hated LBJ. This is something different. This is people being told, get him. Don't just hate him. Go out and get him. Where do you think this comes from? Where would this come from? Who do you think would be responsible for this way of thinking?
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictatorship.
Donnie Deutsch is what used to be called retarded before that word was shelved, and I understand it completely. Believe me, I understand it. It's nothing. There's certain words, that we just don't use anymore. And it's mean and it hurts, and it's one of those things. But if the word ever were to come back, if the word were to be applied, if the word were applicable, Donnie Deutsch would be in the dictionary next to the term, because he absolutely, positively has always just exuded this hubristic lunacy, coupled with and mired with this submental acumen.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
There needs to be unrest in the street, says this woman. This was Ayanna Pressley.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite.
This is another jadrule. This is the biggest. There was a word. The boys downtown would often refer to somebody as, I can't say it. He is a excuse me. This guy has been, from the days of the fake weights to lying about COVID, trying to be, I'm the brother of, whatever it is. He has been a phony, and his days are numbered. This is a guy, by the way, Fredo Cuomo, who started this fantasy about, CNN wants me back. No, he wants you back. Now he's on a network that has numbers not even approaching that of baby monitors.
And peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country.
Two morons together. When you put it this way, there's anti-gravity. This is the additive multiplicative power of dual moronic lunacy. Don Lemon, who is a moonbat benighted child, and this dingbat together. This was, and both of them feeding off. And meanwhile, the people at CNN are just watching the meter. Okay, that's good. That's all they care about, is just how do the numbers work. And I don't blame them for that, because this isn't a real news organization.
Is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face.
They talk about a lot of punching in the face, punching in the face. Chris Matthews, who by the way had to have a drool cup. Remember towards the end when Matthews felt the shock up his leg when he talked about Obama. You know, he had this pockets of spittle that would accumulate. And I don't know, what is her name, this one here? Another dingbat who won't be around for much longer.
And then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
This is another guy too. Robert De Niro honestly thinks he's a wise guy. He really, really believes he's a wise guy. Tom Hanks believes he was in World War II. I'm not kidding you. Tom Hanks, after Private Ryan, thought he was in World War II. When he said, when they were in Normandy, people just believed their stuff. And De Niro, and I've never met him, but people who have known him intimately have always said they are so surprised at what an idiot he is.
I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
That's right, because people always want this hyper masculinized. Oh, by the way, one more thing, and I don't think you have to be an expert on this. Robert De Niro is one of the most overrated actors who has been Robert De Niro in every movie role there is. King of Comedy, he was Rupert Pupkin. That was different. He was very good in Godfather 2 because he was muted. Short of that, when he was in The Mission, hey, bring the cross. He was Lou Cypher. If he's the devil, if he's in the Fockers, he's Robert De Niro. No range. That awful Irishman, the worst. And somehow you have been told, oh, no, he's a great actor. He's one of the best. He is? Yes. Okay, if you say.
Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Now this is my name is Johnny Depp, and I'm a cool guy. And I was one time at a trial with some chick, Amber, who dropped a deuce on the bed. And I go into my own accent sometimes because I think I'm Keith Richards, and I think I'm a rocker, and I covered up my skin and I paint my fingernails, and I'm a kind of an epicene, kind of a nondescript, you know what.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Listen, you can't believe this has been going on.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
Well, her career took off after that, didn't she? Didn't it?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
And I have thought an awful lot about you turning over the name of your plastic surgeon for putting you through whatever the hell it is that you went through. By the way, she's a member of the 1958 Club. Me, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Alec Baldwin, Prince, Angela Bassett. There's a whole slew of us. And she is so gone now. You know why she canceled all her concerts? Because nobody showed up. Because when you're a 66-year-old woman walking around with your ass hanging out, nobody wants to see it anymore. Sorry.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
Oh, and I'm sure that Secret Service investigation really went far, didn't it? Don't you think that was a full-throated investigation? You know that's true. Remember that? After Cheadle and DEI, and remember when Melissa McCarthy with the holster lady? Whatever happened to her? And then there's Dingbat here with a wig that's too tight.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd.
Remember a while back they were upset with Trump because Trump said something like, punch him and I'll pay for your lawyer, and they really went crazy. How dare you? You're advocating, you're inspiring, you're inciting this. When this is what people are bathed in.
And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You know, years ago, people used to always ask, I wonder what it is that causes racism. I wonder why. Well, it's one of the ones where when you systematically treat and demean a group or a class of people, and it becomes part and parcel of the how do I say this? Of the geography, this is what you get. Edie Crowley says, Mr. Rell, I had a Dem friend turn on me with such ferocity it made my head spin. She heard me listening to you. Oh, good. Oh, good. Uncle Lenny has that effect on people. Oh, listen. Now, here's what's going to happen. Nothing. You will not see this person's name again. You will hear more about last night's Emmys, which nothing. Even Candace Bergen was trying to make some Murphy Brown reference. It's forgotten. And that's why the only thing available, the only thing that we can do is to have everybody from Elon Musk to the Hannitys to the whatever and say, we will blanket you in security. Number two, the president cannot play golf. Sorry. He can't go to the Short Hills Mall by himself on a Sunday. Sorry. He can't. They are telling him, you are not safe. There will be no congressional hearings. There will be no anything. Nothing. We caught our breath. We are put through this, and we are told repeatedly. Understand what you're told. You're told your opinion doesn't matter. You are told, oh, look at this. Under L for LOL for the Madonna comment. Thank you so much. You're being told that your thoughts don't matter. Your ideas don't matter. Your version of what's right or wrong doesn't matter. Nobody cares what you think. We're doing it our way. There have been people who have been not only inspired and radicalized, but they've turned psychotically angry, again, for reasons we can't really understand. Seriously, we don't understand this, but it's something that people love to do. There's a Antifa. Did you see the Antifa, folks? Did you see them? Always read thin, skinny, probably picked on. People that you would not normally would think would be violent, but put them together, recruit them into this mass of violence, and they're like stormtroopers in brown shirts. We've seen this from the beginning. President Trump cannot be out anymore on the hustings, so to speak, unless it is so clear and so safe. And I don't know if that's even possible. 49 days until the election. 49 days until the election. It's the most incredible thing anybody's ever seen. 49 days until the election. And let me also tell you something. And this is what's got him so scared, including Oprah. They dragged Oprah out. Oprah What is the most fascinating about Oprah is that Oprah thinks she's Oprah. You say what you want about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, you can laugh, you can whatever you want, but Taylor Swift is actually bringing people into stadiums. She really is. She's doing it. Right or wrong, earned or not, I'll let other people figure that one out. Oprah Winfrey hasn't been on TV in what, 40 years? Nobody knows. People today say, who is Oprah Winfrey? I don't even know who she is. You can say, well, Bill Maher, at least he's on TV, this and that, they're on TV. Jon Stewart, well, he's on TV. But Oprah Winfrey has not been on TV. George Clooney hasn't had a movie of any note. And they delude themselves. They think, well, okay, fine. And then you have those people, and then you have people who every day get up and they walk into their studio at MSDNC or CNN and they say, are we still on the air? We're still on the air. Have we fooled them yet? One more day we fooled them. And they're living in a world where they don't understand how this thing works. And it's not just left wing, but it's right wing too. Fox is winning by default. You see, there's a group of people out there, more than you ever realize, who appreciate long form comment and commentary and analysis. And they're really good at this. And they're not necessarily just sitting around wanting to hear the same regurgitated drivel. They're people who are different. And they're people who want to know this. And there's an international community. An international. You cannot possibly, grasp Israel, Palestine, Hamas, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, Zelensky, Putin, NATO. You can't follow that listening to American news. You can't. You will learn nothing. It'd be like watching cricket coverage in the United States. I mean that. You can't do this. It's like nothing anybody has ever seen before. And I invite you, my friends, if you really want to know what's going on, you've got to go deeper. And you've got it here. The instrument of truth is this wonderful internet with websites where you have to go and learn, and you have to have bookmarks, and you have to find people who are able to speak to you in a way that you are conversant with, that use a vernacular you're conversant with and compatible with, and something that can explain to you what's happening. I'll never forget one time it was when Ukraine first started. There was a guy who he had at his office a Ukrainian flag. And a lot of times, remember, they would have them upside down. They would have it's blue at the top for the sky. But anyway, they have it yellow. They have it inverted. They didn't know. And I asked him, I said, do you know what Ukraine is? You know where it's from? The history of it, the relationship to you. Do you know what exactly? Do you know who George Kennan was? Do you know the remember the famous letter to the? Do you remember what people like? What others said about NATO, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union? So you expect you're putting up a flag and you don't know anything about it? You're putting a flag up, which is fine, which is your right. And there are things to you can certainly put up a flag. It is not insane to have a positive view or perspective via Ukraine or whatever, but you've got to be able to say it. You just don't put up a flag. It never ceases. Why do Americans think they know what they're talking about? They think everything is a Facebook filter. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Truly. So it goes to show you, this is where we are right now. It blows my mind. I worry about that man more than you could ever imagine. And I know you're the same way. We're wondering, how does this happen? How is this happening right now? And how is it that nobody seems to know or care anything about it? It's like, this is the president. If somebody was going after Joe Biden, I'd feel exactly the same way. This is our president. This is our system. You can't do this. You can't possibly do this. This is the part I don't understand. What will it take? And I understand that people should be able to say things. People should be able to say a lot of things that are sometimes borderline crazy. But if you don't see this particular type of hate speech as they use, if you don't see this as being contributory to the state that we're in, you're not paying attention. It's that simple. That simple. So my friends, Raul Rodriguez says, how can burning, looting, Darren be peaceful? I do not know what that means, but thank you. You got me there. I think I missed that one. So forgive me, but thank you nonetheless. So, our dear friends, Raul, thank you. For Xander, Edie Crowley, Evan Webb, Crypto Domini, Buddha TT Boy, Evan Webb, Tony Dash, Lisa PM, and the great Cut Up Chatter this morning. Beautiful with your thoughts and comments. Leslie, thank you. Bradley Opland, thank you. And Ryan, thank you. All right, my friends, stay tuned. We'll have more of this. Have a great and a glorious day. Pay attention. Remember, X. This is the way. This is where it is. The best commentary, especially under Elon Musk. It is simply phenomenal. Great. The information is there. I can't say it enough. And also, dear friends, Mrs. L is on fire with her protestations and her desire to protect children. And there are so many of you who are answering the call. Please follow her at Lynn's Warriors. Lynn's Warriors. Follow her now. Post haste, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget to make sure you are subscribed to Lionel Nation. All right, my friends. We'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. Don't forget, different drops during the day. Keep researching. Remember, if it's on cable TV, it's wrong. If you're watching cable news, no matter the source, it's wrong. It's not there. It's biased. It's limited. It's filtered. It's distracting. You will never learn the truth on cable news. You see a lot of pictures, a lot of people laughing, a lot of personalities, but you'll never see the truth because two sides of the same coin. Sorry. I understand why CNN is CNN. But Fox, no, I don't understand that. They're the biggest sellouts of anyone. They are identical when it comes to international matters, identical to MSDNC. Identical. There's nothing. They're part of the military industrial complex. They're war profiteers. They're ghouls. They're the same. They're great when it comes to simple stuff like, okay, this man's dressed like a woman in a dry. Okay, they're great on that. Wonderful. Low-hanging fruit. Oh, the best. Complexity. Nope. And that's by design. All right, dear friends. Have a great and glorious day. Don't forget the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you.